Hey everybody, it's Wayne back at you with an options premium update. Now typically when I make the majority of my premium income, it happens around Thursday or Friday of the week. But this week is a little bit different and it has to do with DeepSeek as well as NVIDIA. Take a look here at this news story. Now DeepSeek is a Chinese AI company that essentially made a huge splash in the market by announcing that it would be releasing a free AI service that would be using less data at a fraction of the cost of rival US models. And this truly sparked a rout within the market. And NVIDIA in particular felt it the most. So I took advantage of this. I actually had to play defense because I had a NVIDIA cash secured put that I had to quickly roll out when NVIDIA's share price began to plunge. But I also saw this as being an opportunity. And so in this week's video, I'm gonna let you know how much I was able to make exclusively from NVIDIA. And then I also want to answer a great question that came up from a commenter on last week's video. How do I choose or how do I find the particular stocks in which I'm selling cash secured puts against? So let's first show you all of the NVIDIA positions that I sold in 2024. I actually released this in an earlier video, and NVIDIA has really been a top 3 earner for me when it comes to selling puts. Take a look here. In 2024, as I scroll through this list, I sold a total of 75 contracts. I made about $10,000 in net premium. And if we look at this outcome column, never once was I ever assigned any put when I wrote those 75 contracts. I either closed it out early, or if I did have to roll out that position, no problem. I roll down, I roll out, and then I later close that position early as well. So let's go ahead and take a look here at all the NVIDIA contracts that I've written now this year in 2025, and it's a total of 9 contracts. And you're going to see just this past week, I've written more probably in 1 week than I've written in the entirety of January of 2024. Take a look here. In January, I had 1 contract that I opened. Now, to be fair, it is worth noting that a year ago, NVIDIA had not yet split. So the collateral that I had to have back in January of 2024 was about $48,000. Now, in this 1 contract, the only contract that I wrote in the month of January of last year, I essentially opened up this contract and I closed it and I netted about $278. If we go back to all of the contracts that I've written in 2025, certainly going to be a different story. So far with the 9 contracts that I have opened, some of which are still open, I have been able to bring in about $3,700. Not bad for 1 stock ticker. Let's go ahead and further narrow down this list of NVIDIA contracts. These 5 contracts are no longer open. All 5 of them have been closed out early. And what I want to show you here is the percentage of return and the number of days that I had to keep each of those contracts open. And once again, NVIDIA continues to be a top earner for me, where I'm locking in a very high percentage on each of those contracts. And on average, of these 5 contracts against NVIDIA, all of them are no longer open, I was able to lock in on average 81%. If we look at the number of days that I held each of these 5 positions, it's about 2 days. That's not bad, where I'm locking in 80%. And it really didn't tie up my capital for more than 2 days. So in my opinion, that's what makes a great options trader, being able to take advantage of opportunities as they present themselves. You can see here, not only do I have NVIDIA positions that I showed you that I bought to close early, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 active contracts that are open for the following week. So this is a bit of a gamble because typically I never have more than 2 or 3 contracts open on 1 stock ticker. But I really do think that NVIDIA is going to rebound in share price, and it already has done so as we reach the end of this week. So you guys are going to have to remain tuned in to see whether or not I'll be successful on these open contracts. But here's the reality. Take a look here at this position, line item 61. This is actually what happened to me when the DeepSeek news came out. I actually had a NVIDIA put and my strike price was 140. Well, clearly NVIDIA went well below that 140 when news of DeepSeek hit the market. And so I had to quickly roll down and roll out that position. And I was able to do so no problem. That's the beauty about NVIDIA and the volume and the implied volatility. So I bought to close this contract at a loss, right? And so I had to spend $2,225, essentially taking a loss on the first leg of this contract. But because I'm rolling this position, couple of things. One, I was able to roll down in strike price. So I went from having to have $14,000 in collateral to now $13,900. Yeah, it's only $100 less, but essentially I kicked this can down the road, and now the expiration from this contract is going to be in late February. What I am hoping is between now and late February, the share price of NVIDIA is going to rebound and hopefully get back up to that 139. And essentially, I'll be able to either buy to close early on this contract or let it expire. But let's face it, if NVIDIA doesn't rebound in its entirety, that's fine. I'll just go ahead and as we get closer to February 28th, I'll do the same thing. I will roll down and roll out that position, and I hopefully get a better strike price and I get net premium. And that's what happened on this transaction. I actually did not lose any money, even though I had to quickly roll out. I actually was able to make a small amount of money. And so that's another thing that makes for a good options trader, knowing how to properly roll. All right, let's go ahead and answer that question I received on one of my last videos. And that question was, how do I find these positions in which I'm selling cash secured puts against? First, let's give you a look at the total number of unique stock tickers that I sold puts against in 2023. And you're going to see that number was 65. Now in 2024, that number went down slightly to 49. And if I'm being honest, I think this year that number will even go down more than the 49. And the reason being is once you find a good stock ticker to sell puts against, you typically stick with that stock. Now the downside is going to be what happens like a stock like Meta, or a stock like NVIDIA, or a stock like Tesla, where the share price continues to go up. Yeah, that's going to pose an issue. Because if you don't have that cash collateral, or if you don't have that margin or a combination thereof. But I do want to point you out to a useful website that I always check in on a weekly basis. This typically will expose me to stock tickers that maybe I don't know about. So I'll be sure to pin down this optionseducation.org link in the comments. And essentially, this is going to give me a look at all of the top 20 positions that have the most options volume. Some of these should make perfect sense. Like NVIDIA, for example, according to this chart, is the number 2 stock ticker where options are being sold against it. Again, it makes sense, right? Because we saw such huge movement in the tech market, specifically NVIDIA. And then, of course, you see Tesla, you see Apple, you see Palantir, you see Meta. A lot of these have to do with earnings. So for example, Apple this week had earnings. It stands to make sense. If earnings is happening, of course there's going to be elevated volume. People are going to say, hey, I think that Apple's going to perform poorly. So maybe they're going to go ahead and take up one position. Or somebody else says, I think Apple's going to hit it out of the park, and so they take up another position. So a lot of this volume is going to be synonymous with what's happening with that stock ticker. So it's not to say that I go to this website and this is how I only find my stock tickers. A lot of it's going to be a combination of me watching YouTube videos. I'm definitely active on the options trading subreddit that I always get great stock tickers from. So before I give you my grand total of options net premium, go ahead and take a look. These are 11 contracts that I opened this week, but I've also been able to buy to close early. And I always like to sort this on the least expensive to the most expensive. And once again, it's not as though I'm only focusing on NVIDIA or focusing in on positions where the share price, starts at, let's say, $200. I mean, once again, Rivian has been slow and steady for me. And yeah, I only locked in $14 in net premium for this one contract. But in my case, I opened up 3 contracts. And so it's not just $14, it's $42 for these 3 contracts. So take a look at this list. These positions have been working obviously very good for me. NVIDIA, though, clearly is the big winner. I have never sold this many number of contracts against NVIDIA in a short amount of time. And so just for these 5 positions that, again, opened this week and also closed, I was able to lock in $652 from these 5 contracts. And of course, I've got other contracts that are still open. So here you have it. This is how much I made this past week, $3,094. That's certainly a record so far for this year. That brings my weekly average to now $1,871. Remember, the goal was to make $1,000 on a weekly basis. So we are certainly on track to have a fantastic year. Hey, the last thing that I'll leave you here with is I have a personal goal when it comes to this YouTube channel. And the big goal that I have is I would love to reach 1,000 subscribers. And so the only way that can happen is 2 things. 1, I push out hopefully quality content. 2, those of you that are viewing this, I hope that you enjoy it. So you give it a thumbs up, you do a subscribe, you leave a comment. All those things certainly help me reach that goal of 1,000 subscribers. So if you wouldn't mind doing any of the following, whether it's liking, whether it's subscribing, or leaving a comment, I would certainly be appreciative. And again, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.